Welcome back to episode 4 of the Crypto Sharia series. This particular episode is special because we are looking at something which is typically overlooked, which is zakat and digital assets. What is zakat? So zakat is the third pillar of Islam. Simply refers to giving something in charity. It's an obligation, it's compulsory, but very interestingly, it has this kind of societal, financial element and almost like a peer-to-peer manifestation, but yet it serves as a central core pillar of our faith. How do we go about paying zakat on digital assets? What is subject to zakat? What is not subject to zakat? Why does the question of zakat even come? These are some of the questions we'll be tackling and discussing, so stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, dear beloved friends, guests, and viewers. Welcome back to episode 4 of the Crypto Sharia series. As you know, these series are discussing everything to do with digital assets, crypto tokens, zakat, investments, stablecoins, and everything that you need to know to be confident in the cryptoverse. Now, this particular episode is special because we are looking at something which is typically overlooked, not considered, or rarely given any light of day, which is zakat and digital assets. How do we go about paying zakat on digital assets? What is subject to zakat? What is not subject to zakat? Why does the question of zakat even come? These are some of the questions we'll be tackling and discussing in the next hour. So stay tuned. And if you haven't watched the other episodes, this is your chance to like, subscribe, and share this particular channel. And make sure to watch the other episodes on stablecoins and Sharia compliance, on how to calculate and determine whether a particular digital asset is Sharia compliant or not. Or if you're interested in staking and how staking works, we have an episode specific on staking and Sharia compliance. So let's dive in. Let's just start with the first question. What is zakat? So zakat is the third pillar of Islam. From the 5 pillars that we have, it's the third pillar. It's an obligation, it's compulsory. Scholars debate slightly on when it was made compulsory. Many of the scholars are of the view that it was made compulsory in the second year of Hijrah. That is when the Muslims migrated to Medina Munawwara. And it was there when zakat was formally made compulsory and institutionalized as a system. And references to zakat or giving in the Makki period or in the Meccan period simply refers to giving something in charity. But zakat is an obligation. It's a payment every Muslim has to make when they meet certain conditions and criteria. This is a core pillar of Islam. And this is what makes zakat so interesting. That a payment to somebody else becomes a core pillar of Islam. It's not just about worship, in the sense that how we understand worship between you and Allah. Fasting is worship, is between you and Allah. Salah is worship between you and Allah. Hajj is also worship because you're doing something for Allah. The question is, how is zakat a pillar of Islam and how is it worship? It's because when you're giving that money, really you're giving it to Allah first. The scholars mention this, that this is a payment to Allah and then to the beneficiary. It's not you giving to the beneficiary, it's Allah giving to the beneficiary. You're just the vehicle, but it is Allah that gives to the beneficiary. So zakat is worship, it's a pillar of Islam, but very interestingly, it has this kind of societal, financial element and almost like a peer-to-peer manifestation, but yet it serves as a central core pillar of our faith. It's 2.5% on your net zakatable assets. And once again, something which highlights its importance is that it's mentioned 32 times in the Quran, the word zakat. From those 32 times, 30 times it's in the meaning of paying, and from the 30 times, 28 times zakat has been paired with salah, the second pillar, which fundamentally shows us the importance of this particular discussion and this particular pillar of Islam. Like all acts of worship, devotion, and practices within Islam, there's multiple benefits. Zakat has benefits for the payer, for the beneficiary, for the society, and for the economy. For the payer, it purifies you. It removes that connection, longing, desire, greed that one has naturally for wealth. It reduces this because every time you're paying, you're departing from your wealth. You're exercising this strength, this courage, this ability, some discipline to part from something which we naturally like for the sake of Allah. And you're giving it to somebody else. This practice, naturally, every time you do this, it creates a level or some form of quality essence within you, in that you are able to part from something you love for a higher purpose. That's discipline. That's self-control. That is a management upon oneself. So there's multiple forms of benefit for the payer. For the beneficiary, zakat gives them opportunities. It allows them to fulfill their basic needs and necessities. It saves them from struggling just to get on day by day. It gives them that cushion. It allows them to grow. It's a launch pad for them. Zakat has multiple benefits for the beneficiaries. For the society, zakat bridges the gap between the rich and the poor. By giving wealth and by circulating wealth amongst the needy, they are powered with the ability to do some entrepreneurship, maybe start a business, maybe do something else with the funds, maybe pay off a debt, giving them the ability to grow their assets and to grow their wealth. And that naturally helps the entire society. And for the economy, zakat allows the circulation of idle wealth. So money which is just sat in my bank account, or goods which are not doing anything, by paying zakat on that, I'm unlocking these assets. They're idle. And I'm allowing these to now flow in the economy into real consumption and for productive use. And that supports everything in the economy. It supports demand, it reduces hardship-driven costs, and it promotes better distribution. So naturally, there's a economic stimulus being pumped here, and it's driving demand, and that will naturally increase supply of goods, and that will then result in a flow of funds, because one person's expense is another person's payment. And this happens then multiple times. The beneficiary goes and buys something. The shop has to now go and buy it from the distributors. The distributors now have to go to the primary distributors and upstream. Like this, every single transaction leads to another transaction because there's a demand now that's been created. And that's the power of zakat. But what makes zakat binding? When it comes to the obligation of zakat, there's two things that need to be looked at. One is the payer of zakat. The other is the assets and wealth. When it comes to the individual and the payer, then he must be Muslim, and the Hanafis mention two additional things. He must be mature, an adolescent, and he must have mental capacity. Non-Hanafis, the other schools of thought, do not stipulate these two conditions. They are of the view that a child will also be subject to zakat if he meets the other conditions. And likewise, the wealth of somebody who lacks mental capacity will also be subject to zakat if their wealth meets the other conditions. So really, the major thing is being Muslim, with the Hanafis adding two additional stipulations, which are found in all worship anyway, like being adolescent and being having mental capacity. And as far as wealth is concerned, the major conditions are three. Number one, you own that wealth, full ownership. Number two, you have possession and use. You have access. You are able to transact in that wealth. You have the ability to benefit from that wealth yourself. And that's the reason why you're paying zakat, because this wealth, you own it, you're benefiting from it, and therefore you're giving a portion of it away. It doesn't become burdensome upon you. It's easy for you now to pay zakat from that wealth because you own it and you can use it. And finally, not every asset is subject to zakat. Certain assets only are zakatable, as we'll see shortly in the following slides. Further, if you have these two sets of conditions, another thing to consider is the nisab. Nisab simply means a threshold. The threshold which is generally used is the silver threshold, which is approximately 612.36 grams. This was established in the Sunnah, the hadith actual nisab, which was 200 dirhams, as mentioned in the hadith of Sunan Abu Dawood. When we convert that into contemporary standards, it equates to roughly 612 grams of silver, which is the dominant nisab that's used. And if a person has wealth equal to or more than this threshold, or net zakatable assets equal to or more than this threshold, on the payment date of zakat, that's 1 year after you initially paid zakat. So after 1 year, again you meet this threshold, or you have wealth more than this threshold, you will pay zakat. That's how it works on an annual basis. And so zakat is an annual payment. You just simply check on the very same date that you paid zakat last year, and you always pay. You have one date then fixed, and you keep paying on that date. If you equal to the nisab, the threshold, you'll pay zakat. And if you don't, then you will not pay zakat. Rather, you will wait now for the next time you reach the threshold. It can be 1 month later. It can be 5 months later. Then from that particular moment, you will now wait for 1 year. And after 1 year, again, if you meet the threshold, then you'll pay zakat. If you don't meet the threshold, you will not pay zakat. And you'll wait again to see if you meet the nisab. So the first time you have to meet the nisab to activate yourself as a zakat payer. But then zakat is paid actually after 1 year from that date. And if you then meet the threshold at the end of that year, you will pay. If you don't, you'll wait until you start a new year, and then wait until the end of the year and test yourself to see whether you are equal to or above the threshold, the nisab, and pay your zakat. That is how zakat simply works. And as I mentioned earlier, it's 2.5% of your net zakatable assets. What are the zakatable assets? So zakat is simply cash, whether that's bank deposits, petty cash, all currencies, all cash is subject to zakat. Gold and silver, according to the Hanafis, whether it's jewelry or not jewelry, all forms of gold and silver are subject to zakat. The other schools are particular in that jewelry worn by a woman or kept for regular use is not subject to zakat. Investments specific in zakatable assets. So for instance, I've invested into shares, into equity. Now that company will naturally have some cash, some receivables, inventory on its balance sheet. I will have to pay a percentage of zakat on those assets because I have an interest, an ownership interest, some kind of shareholding in such assets. I own a share through my shares in those assets of the company. That's why I should pay zakat now on my proportionate ownership in the net zakatable assets of that company. Receivables, money that's owed to me. So maybe I lent somebody money. They owe me money. I will pay zakat upon that. I have an option. I can pay now when I'm actually paying my zakat for everything else, or I can wait until that person pays me back, and then I pay for every single year outstanding. Likewise, receivables, money owed to me for some sales I made. Maybe I have a business where I sell phones. I've sold 10 phones on credit. So the outstanding balance that's owed to me is subject to zakat, but there's just an option. I can pay now and just fulfill the liability and obligation upon me now, or I can wait until the payment is made and then pay for all the years that debt was outstanding. Similarly, the assets that I'm trading, my business assets, my business stock, whatever you're selling and trading, whether it's electronics, hardware, it's kitchenware, cutlery, property, anything which you're trading, which means you're buying to sell for profit purposes. That's what we mean by trading. Anything of that nature, it will be subject to zakat because it qualifies as zakatable assets. And then finally, crypto assets, digital assets, which really fall under investments and cash and gold and silver and trade assets. Crypto can fall under all of these things. That's why it's important to talk about how digital assets fall under these different elements. Now, before we dive into digital assets and understanding them further, the formula, what is the zakat formula? How do we determine whether zakat is payable or not? This is the formula. You add up all your zakatable assets. So you will have your cash, your gold, silver, receivables, perhaps some investments. They share in zakatable assets. How much do you own in terms of zakatable assets? What's the percentage of zakatable assets in your investment? And you pay 2.5% on that percentage. Trade assets, which you mentioned, you add all of these things up. And if you have any crypto which you're trading, buying, and selling for profit purposes, you add that in. You then deduct liabilities. You can deduct certain debts. So debts which are payable within 12 months, you deduct the entire amount. Long-term debts which have installments running over multiple years, you can deduct 12 months worth of installments. Anything which is arrears and overdue, you can deduct the entire amount. Likewise, personal loans you can deduct also. So all these debts you can deduct from your total zakatable assets. Then you're left with your net zakatable assets. You will pay 2.5% on the net amount. If that net amount is equal to or more than the Nisab, that's the condition. So once you've done this formula, you've added all your assets, you've deducted all the liabilities that you can deduct, you're left with a sum. Is this number equal to or more than the Nisab, the threshold of silver today? If yes, I pay zakat. If no, I do not pay zakat. And that is how zakat works annually. That is the methodology of calculating zakat. So now the question arises, why is there a conversation on zakat on digital assets? Well, the principles of zakat are not just about camels, cows, gold, and silver. Rather, the scholars talk about the reasons why these things are subject to zakat in the first place. Likewise, trade goods. The concept behind trade was you're buying to sell for profit purposes. That can apply to anything. It's not restricted to what was bought and sold in those times. So today we're buying these things. Tomorrow somebody may be buying something in some kind of augmented reality. There'll be a zakat question there as well. Similarly, when it comes to gold and silver, the reason why they are subject to zakat is because of their moneyness, their monetary nature. Naturally, they've been created to serve as a medium of exchange. They have this moneyness within them. And anything which has this moneyness feature, whether it's through customary practice or through its inherent qualities that it becomes used as such a method and in such a manner, then there will be a question of zakat there. So that's the reason why there's a question on digital assets. So let's look at the different types of digital assets and understand the zakat question. So the core principle is any digital asset bought to resell. You've purchased something to resell to make profit. That will always be subject to zakat. That's the principle. Because now it's a trade asset. It's being deemed that this is for trading purposes. You're buying to sell for profit purposes. So anything purchased to sell for profit will be subject to zakat. Likewise, if you're trading in crypto, you're buying simply to make profit for capital gain purposes. That crypto, that digital asset will be subject to zakat. So it's all to do with then your intentions. That's what we are simply understanding. There's two things: your intentions and the type of digital asset in crypto. If you are always purchasing to resell for capital gain, you'll always pay zakat, regardless of what it is. That's the primary principle. If you're buying to resell, regardless of which crypto, you will always pay zakat. If you're not buying to resell, meaning maybe you've just created a portfolio of assets, maybe you've bought certain tokens like Solana because you want to run smart contracts, or you want to build decentralized apps on Ethereum. So you've bought Ether and you want to run smart contracts. Then the focus is not on your intention, rather on the type of token. So if you are not trading crypto, you are not buying to resell for profit purposes, rather you are just holding these assets in your portfolio with no intention to sell for profit purposes. The question is, what type of digital asset is it? Then the zakat treatment will be based upon the type of digital asset in your portfolio. Many people, I would say majority, just from interactions I've had, majority of people are buying and selling crypto for profit purposes. If you fall in that category, then you need to always pay 2.5% on your portfolio. And if you're not trading, then the question is all about which type of digital asset is it that you own and are holding. There's multiple types of tokens and we'll go through them right now. So for instance, you can be a payment token and an exchange token. What do I mean by these words? Any token which functions, which primarily was created to function as a medium of exchange. Its core utility was to be a digital form of cash like Bitcoin, Litecoin, Monero. These types of tokens and digital assets were created to serve as an alternative to fiat and for electronic payments purposes. Hence, their core utility is to function as a medium of exchange. That is their use case. That is the concept behind them. When that's the case and they've been built in that manner, then zakat will be due upon them, according to many scholars, that they will be treated as cash because that's the core function and purpose. And they are giving you a medium to make payments. It's a payment system. And this is a unit within that system. So you'll pay zakat on the bitcoins that you hold, regardless of your intention. Whether you are holding them for long term, short term, it'll be 2.5% because of their very reason behind their existence and the utility and function. So they'll always be zakatable. So for instance, if a person has one Bitcoin, and for argument's sake, the value and the price is $50,000, although currently it's near $80,000, $90,000. But in this example, if the Bitcoin was $50,000, then 2.5% of that will be $1,250. That will be your zakat on your 50,000 Bitcoin. Now, you don't have to pay that in fiat. You can pay zakat in Bitcoin to anybody who accepts zakat payments in digital assets. The next type of digital asset is stablecoins or gold, silver, tokenized assets. These are also functioning. So for instance, stablecoins, many of them are designed to function as a digital dollar or functioning as fiat in the crypto world. And their core utility, again, is payments, functioning as a medium of exchange. When that's the case, again, they'll always be subject to zakat because they are similar to cash and currencies and their payment systems. Gold and silver, tokenized assets, because gold and silver were inherently or primarily zakatable because of their moneyness and monetary nature, they also are subject to zakat always. So if you are owning tokenized gold, tokenized silver, for instance, tokenized gold like PAXG or XAUT Tether Gold, this will always be subject to zakat because there's the question and the reality of moneyness there. Just like you have a question and a principle of moneyness in stable coins, in fiat currencies, and your payment tokens, which we just talked about, they are functioning as forms of payments, as a form of money, and therefore there'll be zakat on those assets. So if a person had $100,000 worth of PAXG, he'll have to pay $2,500 on that as zakat, which is 2.5% of their holding. What about tokenized real world assets? What if you are owning a token which is giving you ownership in shares, private equity, real estate, or other forms of investments? So the principle which we mentioned earlier again stands. If they were purchased to resell, if the idea is I will sell this for profit, then zakat will be due 2.5% on the entire value of that particular digital asset and tokenized real world asset. However, if you are investing in this not for resale purposes, rather for income, maybe you've invested in tokenized real estate, which is rental property, and you are earning some rental income, or you've invested in tokenized stocks or tokenized sukuk. Now it's all about the underlying. If you're not trading the stocks and you're not trading the sukuk, your intention isn't to trade. Rather, it's I'm holding this as part of my portfolio for long-term purposes. It's just diversification of my wealth. I am not holding this to trade. I'm simply parking my cash in a different form, a form which grants me income, or which is functioning as perhaps a diversification for my portfolio. But I'm not trading this. It's just part of my portfolio. In such an instance, zakat will depend upon the proportionate underlying zakatable assets. So, for instance, if I've invested in tokenized property and that property fund, 90% of it is in real estate, which is generating rental income. 10% is cash that they've kept in the fund. I will pay zakat simply on the 10% as cash because I own a share in that through my investment and any rental income which I have and I've received. I will not need to pay zakat on the 90%. And that is how all tokenized investments work. As long as you're not trading, you've not bought to resell to capture some profit. Rather, your intention is to hold it for diversification, hedging, or a long-term kind of strategy that you have, then I'm only paying zakat on the underlying net zakatable assets and the proportion of zakatable assets in that fund, in those stocks, or in a portfolio, nothing else. So another example is if there's a tokenized real estate fund with 25% net zakatable assets, then the question will be, if I have $10,000 invested in this particular tokenized real estate fund, I will need to pay 2.5%, which is a zakat rate on only 25%, because only 25% of that fund is in zakatable assets, not the entire 100%, because rental property is not a zakatable asset. The money is, but the rental property is not. The property is not being traded. Property is just brick and mortar. It's not being traded. But the rental income is being traded. So therefore, zakat will be 2.5% of 25% of 10,000, which equals $62.50. That is the zakat on such an investment. What about utility tokens, platform tokens, or governance tokens? What are these types of tokens? These are tokens which are not stable coins, they're not payment tokens. They are giving you a service, a benefit on a particular network, or they give you voting rights. So these are tokens which typically give you a benefit. You use it for a service, a benefit on a protocol, or they are used as gas fees on a network, or you are able to vote because you own these tokens. Now, for all of these types of tokens, the principle is the same. If you're trading them, meaning I've bought them to sell for profit, I will pay 2.5% on the full value. However, if I am not trading them, I've purchased them for voting purposes, to be part of the governance in a DAO, or to use a service on a blockchain through these assets, then zakat will not be due on these assets at all. So for instance, if I have Arbitrum, ARB, as a token, which can be used for governance purposes, and I'm not trading, rather this is purely held because I want to use that protocol and I want to use that to build applications or to power another service, then I do not need to pay zakat on this particular digital asset that I'm holding. Similarly, if I have Ether, which again is not for trading purposes, but I'm just using it to pay for gas fees, I'm building applications, I'm running smart contracts, that's the reason why I need this, then there's no zakat on this at all. I'm not trading this. It's rather a right to a service, it's right to a benefit, not something which is a zakatable asset in and of itself. So those were all the principles that we've now discussed and understood. Let's just take some examples and case studies just to make sure we are all on the same page, and now we can understand, and hopefully you're confident enough then to work out your zakat on your crypto holdings. So the first case study, Ahmed holds a diversified crypto portfolio for long-term investment. His zakat year end is approaching. What does he own in his portfolio? He has Bitcoin, he has Ethereum, he has Filecoin, he has a Uni token, and also Pax Gold. Now look at the types of tokens. They're very different. They're diversified. Bitcoin is a payment token. Ethereum is utility and payment. Filecoin is pure utility. He's holding it to use as well. Uni token, governance token. He's holding that for governance purposes. Pax Gold is asset backed. It's a tokenized gold asset. From all of these, he's holding two tokens which are for non-trading, your Filecoin and your Uni token. Because the nature of Bitcoin is it's a payment token, it'll always be subject to zakat. Ethereum, primarily utility, but can be used as a payment token at times. But here, crucially, he's trading in Ethereum, therefore the entire holding is subject to zakat. Filecoin, he's not trading. So $2,000 there, he's not trading those assets. Uni token, he's not trading either. And Pax Gold, it's gold. It's tokenized gold. You own gold as a result of owning this token. When we look at that, then look at the zakat treatment. Bitcoin will be 100% zakatable because it's a payment token. Ethereum, he's trading, 100% zakatable. Filecoin, there's no zakat because it's not a trading asset. Neither is it gold or silver. Uni token, it's not gold, silver, money. Neither is a trade asset. Therefore, there's no zakat on that. Pax Gold will be 100% zakatable because it's gold, regardless of his intention. He will pay zakat on that. So he'll add up everything. The total zakatable assets are $26,000. His total portfolio is worth $29,500. But his zakatable amount is $26,000, and 2.5% of that is $650. That will be his zakat on such a portfolio. Let's take another example on somebody who is an active trader. So Fatima is an active crypto trader who buys and sells tokens frequently to capture short-term gains. She's always buying and selling. She's dipping in the markets, finding tokens which have potential, and then a couple of days later, she's liquidating her portfolio, selling them, and capturing profit. In such a scenario, all her crypto holdings are trading inventory and will all be subject to zakat because of her intention. She's trading. She's an active trader. So she has Solana, Chainlink, Polygon, USDC. All of these are subject to zakat now. All of them will be zakatable, and she will have to work out the total of this. So if you look at this, it's 21,500 as a total, and 100% of that is subject to zakat. And then she'll pay 2.5% of that as a zakat because she is actively trading all the crypto that she owns. She's not interested in the services and the use cases and the types of tokens. She is simply more concerned with the realized value and the market value of these assets. That's what she's concerned with. She's not concerned with the benefits or any kind of long-term diversification strategy that she may have. Rather, it's I want to make money through the buying and selling of these crypto assets. Now, the final case study is of Umar. Umar invested in a tokenized real estate fund for long-term dividend income. The fund has published its balance sheet showing 30% net zakatable assets. So he's invested $50,000. The net zakatable assets ratio is 30%. $50,000 times 30% equals $15,000. The zakat rate is 2.5%. Therefore, he needs to pay 2.5% on 15,000, which equals $375. If in this scenario, Umar was actually trading this, he bought this or bought a share in the real estate fund purely for trading purposes. This was his business. He was looking to make money by just flipping this and selling this on. His zakat would be $1,250, which is 2.5% off $50,000. So let's look at a quick summary of everything we've discussed. If you have payment tokens, they're always zakatable, whether it's trading or for another use, always subject to zakat. If you have stable coins, again, always zakatable, whether you're trading or for another use because they are functioning as money. If you have tokenized real world assets, if you're trading, always zakatable. If you're not trading, then you look at the percentage of net zakatable assets. Owning utility tokens as part of your portfolio. If you're trading, then 100% subject to zakat. If you're not trading and you're holding to use the network and to build apps or to run smart contracts, there is no zakat on those assets. Likewise, your governance tokens. If I am trading, again, 100% of that will be subject to zakat. And if I am not trading, I genuinely want to vote on a DAO, then there'll be no zakat on that particular digital asset. And finally, if you own tokenized gold, tokenized silver, regardless of your intention, you will always be subject to zakat because of the nature of gold and silver. Some practical tips for those who invest in digital assets from a zakat perspective. Number one, document your intention. Be very clear on why you are buying and trading. So if you have a spreadsheet, be very clear, I am trading this, or this is non-trading, this is for long-term, this is for using, or maybe I want to vote. Be very conscious and clear on why you are investing in things. This is just part of good investments and just good governance for yourself and for your own management of your portfolio. Just to be very clear on the goals of investments. That's like investing 101. Number two, use your year-end valuations. Because these things fluctuate, it's not about what it's worth at the time of purchase. Rather, at the zakat year-end, when you pay zakat typically on all your other assets. So many people pay in the 1st of Ramadan, in the 27th of Ramadan, the 10th of Ramadan, or 20th of Ramadan. Whenever you pay your zakat annually, on that same date, check the value of your investments, your holdings, your cryptos, and all of these things, and use that date. It's good practice to just track your portfolio changes, understand what you own, what you don't own. You don't want to miss zakat on something. So maybe you're investing on multiple platforms and you have multiple wallets and you have different assets in different places. Have a track of everything. Have a master record of all your assets so that you don't miss a particular asset when it comes for zakat. Because the treatment of zakat functions on intention as well as the type of asset, it's important to know then if you're not trading, what type of crypto is it? Is it tokenized gold, tokenized silver? Is it a utility token? Is it a payment token? Is it a governance token? So be clear and have a row or a column in your spreadsheet which simply identifies the types of tokens which you are investing in. And finally, make sure to consult scholars on the fiqh of digital assets and zakat, because these things can sometimes be very complicated. And because of the pace of innovation in this field, there's always new considerations that are out there. So do keep up to date with the latest rulings. If you're interested in more, you're always welcome to ask myself via Facet. We have multiple things being released on there, researches, write-ups, blogs. We have something very interesting being launched soon. I request everybody to follow Facet just to make sure you get that at time in the next couple of weeks. To close off, what's our key takeaways? Zakat is the third pillar of Islam. It's a 2.5% on qualifying wealth. It purifies the wealth. It uplifts the needy and stimulates the economy. Digital assets can be subject to zakat. The treatment depends on the token type and intention. Payment tokens are always zakatable. Other tokens, if you're trading, is 100% subject to zakat. If you're using or you've invested in a real world asset, for instance, then it varies. It's always proportionate. Security tokens follow equity rules. And finally, always document your intention and use year-end market valuations. And with that, we come to a close in episode 4 on the Crypto Sharia series. I hope it was of benefit to you. Stay tuned. Make sure to subscribe to this particular channel because we'll be releasing the next episode, episode 5, episode 6, on things you will not want to miss out on. I'll see you next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.